I hear more people. I hear more people talking their way down
It's
the
just
hall.
that guess. There's no, I was like, it just signs on for me, so I don't know. No.
Two people just walked in?
Yes.
Or was it three?
Yeah.
Roberta. And Brad. We are one short of four.
Oh,
And you got David.
We are no longer short of four.
yes.
Thank you, David.
Donuts, compliments of Alice.
No, thank you. Thanks, Alice. So, welcome to the October meeting of the.
October.
It is
Exactly.
so Waterfront Parks and Environment Committee of Community Board 4. The hybrid policy can be found on the website. Members are expected to attend unless they have a disability. Raul was sick tonight, and I hope he's not sick enough. I hope he'll come. Excused members of the public will still be able to, and members of the public will still be able to participate. Please, if you're members of, well, there's nobody on who's, hi Janine, it's nice to see you. There's no community board member that's on right now, so there's nobody to ask to leave the camera. And we have an agenda that I think is a short agenda. I'm hoping that's true. And Paul is here for Parks, and he will speak in a second. You guys worked really hard last evening. You had a 3-hour meeting. I was in Greece. I was enjoying myself. And I think you did a hell of a lot of work. I sent to you today a comment by Steve Simon about the web closing of the parks. And maybe Paul in his comments will make some comments about that. And I sent you what is the most important thing that we have to do tonight. I don't think we have to talk about it, but the most important thing is that we have to record a vote about the statement of district needs. And given how hard you worked on that last time, I suspect there won't be any changes, and that'll just sail through. So, without further ado, and in the dark, let's hear from Paul Evans.
Yes, thank you very much. You know, I had a meeting earlier today and it was the same problem, but it wasn't even as bad as this. And I just thought I was just sitting wrong, but there's clearly something up with the camera, so I have to get that checked out. Okay, so.
So that's cool.
Well, I'm glad you can hear me. Now, what did I do? Here's my notes. Okay, so I know that there was there were a lot of questions about fence. So I want to start with some of the some of the positive stuff on fence. I don't know. I know there's some concerns about McCaffrey Playground as well. So one of the things we've done to address some of the use of the new users of the park is we've installed a fence around the middle part of the park that kind of portions off the area with the swings and the play equipment. So that is now, and there's signage up as well. So now there is officially a children's area. The signage says no adults unless accompanied by a child. So to address any of the community concerns about how that space is used, we've now addressed it. I also will say I'm very, very pleased. We're beginning to do some outreach to the community. I mean, these are largely, I guess, immigrant from 2 different pools. Some of them are African, and they tend to be as people call them, the deliveristas. And there's also the other immigrants. I guess they tend to be of Latino extraction, but I really haven't had much interaction with them. But I was able to make some inroads with a gentleman who actually went to Syracuse University. I'm very pleased to hear that, in New York College, but who's able to be a connection to that community. He's African, and he also understands the culture. Part of what I think is also going on with this influx of deliveristas is also a little bit of a cultural disconnect as to really what the intent and purpose of the park is supposed to be. And while it's welcoming for everyone, you know, there is I guess an intended, you know, design usage. So we want to communicate all of that so that everybody can use it, you know, happily and you know and compatibly. The other thing is they've also expressed some interest through him in doing some volunteer projects. We have some painting projects to do, and we're going to explore involving them in that constructive way. And I think that'll be a very good thing both ways. And I know the Hambler wall needs to be painted, so I already have that on my list. But I also think it's very important for them, you know, not just to be there waiting for their next, you know, delivery, but also, you know, to do the other kinds of recreation, volunteerism in the park that regular New Yorkers, you know, the usual New Yorkers actually do. So that's a very positive thing about McCaffrey. There is much more to come because we have to do a lot more outreach. So I'll be keeping you in the loop as to the next steps, but that's actually started. The other fence thing relates to Chelsea Green Playground. We know, I hate to say perimeter fence. I know that it's a sore issue, but I believe the compromise that we've all agreed to is removing that thin, top rail. I guess I would call it a top rail that closes off the pickets. I guess it's there maybe for, I don't want to say for safety, but it is there, I think, so people don't get snagged on them. But there was a work request requesting that piece of metal be removed, and hopefully the exposed pickets will therefore be a deterrent to people who try to enter the park after it's officially closed. So that's coming down the pike.
How are we going to check that out?
What do you mean?
Well, when you remove the top rail, how do we know that it's been effective as you expected it to be?
Well, you know, the concern about people getting into the park at night comes from the community. So, I mean, the easy thing is if people aren't complaining about it, then we know that we're being somewhat effective. You know, we're all gonna just have to keep an eye and see, you know, what the nighttime behavior is. I mean, the community has been very helpful, in fact, by reporting on these you know, incursions. So I would expect that same kind of feedback in the future, and hopefully it will show that we're going to be effective. I do not think it's going to be 100% because the fence is relatively low. So it's
4 feet, isn't it?
I think it's a 4.5 foot fence plus there's a footing on it, so it might be like 5 feet. But I mean, obviously, it's easier to climb than a taller fence might be. But I do think that this will give us some help to address the problem in some way, in some measure. So I have to see if it works. We'll have to see how much it helps.
Sally has a question on this.
It's not really a question, Paul, thank you. It's more of a statement. Yes, we did meet with Max about 2 months ago on it. And it was a solution because we can't get the higher fence, certainly at this time. This is supposed to be a deterrent, meaning if they take that off, it'll be spiked. And I think they're going to add, the iron workers will add some inches to what will be left there. We don't know if it'll work, but because it's so easily climbed over with the flat top, we're willing to give this a try because we have to do something. The question here, Paul, is when we talked about it about 2 months ago, and I thought it was, fairly imminent, but so far nothing's happened. So, and we've written and asked for a timetable.
Yes.
And nobody has told us it's next week or 6 months or anything.
I will. Well, what I will tell you is this. I know I'm the person that put in the work request. It was put in after I was on vacation. I was not at the walkthrough, but I think it happened when I was on vacation. So the work request went in. It went in after I got back. I will find out where they are. I will also tell you that we're dealing with elite craftsmen in this, dealing with our welders, and so I will just make sure I'll just find out where we are. I'll find out
Just
where
give
we
us
are.
an idea, because we're waiting, thinking it's happening.
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand. I'll help you manage that expectation. I also want to say, it's a very, very big city. It's a very, very big borough, but I will definitely check on that because I'm actually curious to see how this is going to work as well. So yes,
Yeah.
I'll check on that.
Yeah, okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay. The other fence thing has to do with range fence around the planted areas. Yeah, the range fence a little bit. Well, we're working on that. We're getting our hands on some range fence. We actually have some. We have to install it. The key places it needs to be installed, I know, is around the tree in the back area. It's bent in a lot of places. Bear in mind, the range fence is really temporary fence. The wire fence, it's really temporary fence. So we always have to be expecting to replace it, retighten it, whatever. We're working on that. I believe we have a spool. I will check with Juan Torres when he's back in the office, which will be, I believe it's going to be on Sunday. And we'll just try to get at least some of it put in place in the worst places. So, but I know that all the fence is on the radar. Okay, next, rats. So I know rats are also on everybody's mind. At this point, there are 5. We every once a month I do work requests for rats. I will tell you, most of the time I think about doing them when I see them when I'm walking home, because they're really aggressive. Chelsea Park, they're really, really aggressive. So yes, there are 5 open work requests that are out, and so hopefully in the coming days you'll see the exterminators out, breaking down the burrows and putting, doing the treatment that they do. I believe they use gas on them, so hopefully you'll be seeing that as we move along. Also bear in mind the weather is changing. It's this time of the year that rats and squirrels and other animals that hibernate or whatever, responding for the winter, they get very, very active. They begin to forage and they're really, really running around. So you may think, oh, it's an explosion of rats. It's not so much an explosion as their seasonal response, but yes, they're out, they're active. This also gives us a better chance to treat them. So we're on that as well. Okay. More fun news. It's my park day. That's my phone. If you're hearing it, that's my phone. Sorry. Yes. So it's my park day is coming up. Actually, it's been spread out. There'll be some activities in October in the traditional time, but also the big planting days are coming up in November. Believe it or not, this is in response to climate change because it's warmer longer and they want the bulbs to go in the ground and be dormant. So they're planting them later in the season when it tends to be more consistently cool. So planting day for bulb projects is coming up in November. But people who are coordinating volunteer groups, you should definitely reach out to Lindsay Cooper. Do your online application for what your project is. Most of them they get flown by me by what the project is going to be. I approve them all because most of the volunteers in NCB4 know what they're doing, but we keep a running tally on them to keep track of the progress. So I have Lindsay can be reached the usual email protocol, first name dot last name. It's Lindsay Cooper, LYNDSEY.Cooper at parks.nyc.gov. And she is the community engagement coordinator for Partnership for Parks for Community Board 4. And so hopefully there'll be a lot of projects coming up. And that's all I have. So if you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer them, and please be gentle.
Why? We'll start with Matt.
I'll be gentle. Hey, Paul.
He's gonna be gentle.
Yeah. Last month, Steve Simon gave an update on the wall work at Matthews Palmer Playground. He said that should be done by the end of October. I'm just wondering, is that still the time that we think that work's gonna be done?
Well, my understanding was that the permit for the work was through December, but
right.
Oh wait, am I? Yeah, you can hear me, right? Because it's not, okay, it's moving. Okay, great. So yes. So my understanding is that the permit is extended through December. It's interesting. I don't see the guys running around on the scaffolding, but when I go by and I look, there's more and more work done on the wall. So it's very clear they're making that progress. So I don't want to attest to October, but it does appear that they are moving with some visible progress. And that's what I will say to you. I remember a December permit deadline, but listen, more power to them if they finish early. So, that's my observation on the progress at that location.
And then as far as restoration work to the basketball court that's there, because there's been some damage to it since that work's been going on, are plans underway as far as when that work would start?
That I have to find out exactly what the details of the conversation were for the repair work. I don't have the precise answer for that. I know that there's been some conversation back and forth with legal and with Max about how that was going to be handled. That information I'll have to get back to you with.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Last month, this group talked a whole lot about construction schedules at DeWitt Clinton. And they were told that we would get a timeline. And I'm raising that now. Construction schedule for DeWitt Clinton.
This is for so you're asking for, because I'm not well, for which project in particular? Let me ask it that way.
Well, there are a lot of projects going on there, and pick the first one that's going to be completed and let us know. I mean, I sat through the 3-hour meeting on YouTube, and they worked really hard to try and figure out what construction schedules were going to be on the various elements. And they were promised last month to get some feedback on what the timelines were. Pick one. Well, if you say one is going to be finished next month, we'll be very happy. But I don't expect you to say that.
I will find out what the approved projects are and what their schedules are, and we'll get you that information.
And we ask you to bring that to our next meeting. I thought that was what was asked for at the past meetings, so.
Yeah, it sounded like there's money available for doing Clinton Park. And
There's some money
the ability to start work, like, it sounded pretty imminent.
It was the point you were making. There were
It's either, right,
$5 million available.
right,
Need 12 more,
right,
is the
like
way
a
I
handball
heard the
court and
conversation.
things like that, right.
But the 5 million should enable the beginning of some construction soon. And that's what we were told.
Okay, so I will ask about the 5 million capital for DeWitt. I must tell you, I'm sorry to admit that I'm not really clear which project it was. I would imagine, is it the basketball court and the playground, or is it another project?
I thought it was the basketball court and handball court, so
Right. That area.
That section
Okay.
of the park.
I will ask about that. That's fine. I mean, when we think about the big picture, that's all that really remains to be done in the park on the large scale. It's actually in the park house too. I will ask which projects and what the schedules are.
The park house is the big ticket one.
Yes, that's a big one too. Yes. All right.
So for the budget task force item, it does also, in addition to the repaving, include new playground equipment, new spray shower and drainage lines. Have those items been funded, or so those would also remain on the community's list of items?
Gold one.
Uh,
Gold was among that also.
yeah, the dog run is a separate item, but yes, that's good.
Yeah, I think Steve quoted like 14 million for a total project. There's like 5 million available to do some work soon, whatever that means.
Okay. I will get this information.
It is the list that we had last year for the Do It Clinton Park. It says that playground and courts, new playground equipment, new spray shower and drainage lines. And then there's a separate budget task force item for the dog run.
Okay. All right, I've added it to my list. That's fine.
Thank you. Paul.
Anything else?
Yeah, there is, hold on.
Hey Paul, how you doing? It's Brad. I just wanted to say, I think it's a great idea that if you could get people that are using the park to volunteer and do that painting, it's just one of the best things I've heard in a while.
Thank you.
So I appreciate that work, Paul. That's a big win, I think.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
And I do hope you get some light.
Yeah, I want to figure that out too. I don't, and it's getting even darker while we're here. So something's up. I got to check it out.
You better now than I saw you before, but whatever. Good luck. Good luck with
Very
that. We'll see you next month, and thanks for coming. Hold on, Sally.
No, I'm just asking if there's any questions. I thought I saw a hand.
Oh, is there any?
I don't lose anybody else.
Yeah, we have Michael Walsh with his hand up.
Would you bring Mr. Walsh over, please?
Yeah, he's here.
Turn on your camera, sir, please.
Yep.
You.
Hello.
Hi. Go
Hi,
ahead.
I'm Michael Walsh. I'm the board president of the Friends of Chelsea Green. And Paul, thank you for those updates. They're really helpful. I know you're overworked and you have a lot going on. It's just hard. It's hard because we don't get much feedback about the park, and so it makes these issues even more frustrating because I can't relay any information to people. I'm glad to hear that you are replacing the range fencing. I think it's pretty clear that it's become a problem throughout the park. I wonder if there's any way to do any kind of temporary fix on that bent fence right by the entrance, because that is where we have kids climbing in and out, and I think it's a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
Yeah, and if we're going to if this planting comes that you're working on, I certainly don't want kids to get hurt, but I also don't want them trampling on fresh planting. So yeah, I mean, if in anticipation of the range fencing, that I think from what I've heard, and I've seen it, and I've heard from people, because that area is completely empty, I think kids are just taken to climbing in there, and a lot of people think it's dangerous.
I understand. So obviously we want to get the planting in, and we also want to get the fencing in. Are you suggesting that the fencing should that should be a priority location, or?
Well, I just wonder, until we get new range fencing, if there's any way that like some kind of post could be put in there to keep the fence from bending into the space, which like the kids can't get in if the fence, is somewhat supported from the inside, so they can't right. Kind of climb it,
Well, no, the kids range fence, those 2-inch by 4-inch rectangles say, if you're a kid, climb me. So they're going to climb on it. Because it's easy. It's really easy for them to get
right, but they're climbing it because it's bent. It's already bent flat, and they're just hopping up on it and jumping in.
Well, if it's low, they're gonna hop the fence. But the point is, wherever there isn't a post, it's weak and it's going to be prone to bend. So right. the standard spacing for posts is like 1 every 4 feet. With the expectation that people are not going to climb on it, but they always do.
Right.
So an easier solution is just to put in more posts. It's to double the number of posts. It makes the fence more rigid, and that is something we will consider. We will see what we can do. We will see what we can do. That's really the solution for that location.
Yeah, and it's really like 1 or 2 posts would stop that from being an entrance point for the kids. I mean, these are really little kids. These aren't like soccer playing like adolescents. Like, these are little toddlers who are climbing.
I know, and that's the reason why they can climb on us.
Yeah,
I'm totally there. I get it. So the fence.
But obviously, I mean, in the long run, yes, new range fencing I think will help. And, you know, but I think if we're having range fencing replaced, we have to look at a better schedule of replacement because it's been bad for like a year and a half,
Yes.
2 years, and
No,
it's
it's
well
time.
behind
It's time.
replacement time. So that would be really helpful. And I mean, I know we can talk about all the other parts in the park, all the range fence, but I think we've covered it. There's an email that went around to you guys and Steve. I think everybody knows it. So we can take this offline, but Sally just invited me to come and speak, and it's really good to hear these things because I know it's hard to communicate sometimes. So I really appreciate hearing some of these things from you, but I hope we can keep talking about this. And yeah, just try to get it worked out sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
And then there's a couple the plantings and the other things we can continue with offline. So I don't want to take up more meeting time, but that's just the one that one area is the one that's a really concern to the community, and so we'd really like to focus a spotlight on it if we could.
Absolutely. I hear you. I got it. And I'm back from vacation. That's good. I got it.
And thanks for the update about the rail, the outside rail. Yeah, we would like be great if the work order has any sort of date attached to it of when it might get through. That's just good to know ahead of time, even if it's a long range. It's just helpful to know because people ask questions and we don't have answers, and it's we want to keep the community engaged.
Talk to me offline about
one of my major questions for Paul for this time was a schedule, a timeline for the various construction projects on everything that we're doing. And we're going to get some more information hopefully about that at the beginning of next month. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Go.
Paul, can they leave the fence that's there and double it up?
Well, the short answer is we actually would like use it in a place where, appearance is not that important, but having a some kind of a way to block people out it's necessary. We will see. Let me just say, we will see. The answer to your question really is, do we need to reinforce a certain area that's at that location? And if so, we will do that. But we recycle the fence. We use it in other locations where aesthetics are not always so critical.
Mike Petit, you have a question?
Me? No.
Huh? Mike, can you hear me?
No, I'm good.
No questions. I'm the next.
I'm not talking about Walsh, I'm talking about Petit.
Oh, sorry.
But he's not responding or even moving.
Was there a question for me?
I don't think so.
There he is.
Mike?
Oh, no.
Mike Petit.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Mike? Petit.
No, so Mike Petit, he's on for the next item. He's on for the boathouse.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. That's our next event. So I'm going to go back to him anyway. And thank you, Paul.
You're very welcome. And I'll see you next month.
Boathouse, you're on. He's not hearing me, Janine.
I think he might be frozen.
That's not good for a boathouse.
It might be a better connection with his camera off. I don't know.
As soon as you can, say something so we can know that you're there.
Let me try to transfer him back over 1 second.
Whose boathouse is this? Does anybody know?
Yeah.
96, the one up by 97 maybe?
That's the one that has been purely active.
Yes, yeah.
But I don't think we've met Mike before. Well,
Mike, can you hear us?
I'm just wondering if I was right about the statement of district needs that you've all looked at. And that while we're trying to get Mike, the boathouse to speak with us, we should just take that vote. Is there anybody who wants to say something before I call a question and vote on the statement of the district's needs that you received an email from Leslie on? It's this one, it's both capital and expense. There's 7 items on each one. I admire the struggle that you went through last month to do this. An amazing job. Should I just call the question? I know the chair's not supposed to call the question, but I'm doing it anyway.
Well, I have a quick question. So on the Excel file or the numbers file, there's 16 capital expense items, but we will only name 7 of them. Is that just, we're saying these are the priority?
These are the priorities that this committee is putting forward to the budget task force.
Okay,
I believe we definitely took one off of expense. We may have also taken another off of capital, if I'm recalling that number correctly. I would have to go back and double check.
But they're not in, those that you think were taken off are not included in these 7.
No, they're not.
And so the vote is only on these 7 as a priority.
Yeah, I think these were both the things that were taken off for sanitation requests that were no longer relevant. If I'm recalling the discussion we had in the previous meeting correctly.
And the other thing I'd say is that over the coming year, there'll be other items that we talk about, and you know, it's like we adjust it a little bit every year, and we get some of the time. Something that Lincoln said, I think. So all in favor? Any objections, any abstentions, any present not eligible, any other oddities? I take that as unanimous vote. Thank you. Mike, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Am I coming through okay?
Yes, we can hear you too.
Incredible. Thank you so much. Sorry about that.
You've got the floor.
Well, thank you so much. So I'm here on behalf of Manhattan Community Boathouse. We are a all-volunteer nonprofit that provides free public.
Where's the boathouse?
We're at Pier 96 in Hudson River Park at 56th Street.
Thank you. That's the one we thought you were.
Yes. And so we came to you, we reached out about 2 seasons ago for a letter of support when we were submitting a response to the RFP to Hudson River Park to operate at Pier 96. And so I just wanted to reach out and give you an update for what's been going on the last 2 years there. Just kind of close back in and let you know kind of what we've been up to. So if I can share my screen here, I've got a few slides to share.
Great.
So first off, as I mentioned, Manhattan Community Boathouse, we provide free public kayaking at Pier 96. We're there every Saturday and Sunday from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. And Mondays and Tuesdays in the middle of the summer from 5:30 to 7:30. 100% of our programming is free and open to the public. All of our programming is staffed by volunteers and funded by just donations from the public. And new equipment is purchased using money from grants. We offer skills classes and river trips for the volunteers that staff our walk-up program. So for anybody that wants to do more than just paddle around in our cove, they can volunteer and then kind of get a work on kind of more formal like sea kayaking skills and get more experience and more opportunities to get out on the water. Our goals are to provide free and safe public recreational access to the Hudson River for the general public. We're there to act as responsible stewards of one of the few public boat launches in New York City. Pier 96 is a public boat launch, and so while we're there, it's up to us to be sure that people are using that responsibly and behaving as they should on the water. We encourage safe boating practices through our classes and our program policies. And we're there to kind of challenge the idea of the Hudson River. A lot of people still have very outdated stereotypes of how clean or dirty it is or how safe or dangerous it is. And so we're there to give people a firsthand experience, like a recreational opportunity on the water to kind of help change that perception. And hopefully just change every New Yorker's relationship to the Hudson River and the waters that surround the city in general. A quick photo, this is our boathouse at Pier 96 here between just south of the newly renovated Pier 97 and north of the Pier 94, where the Sunset Studios are currently under construction. And how we got here back even as far back as the 80s, there were people providing free kayaking downtown in Manhattan. In 1994, the Downtown Boathouse formally incorporated at Pier 26. They then moved up to Pier 96 in 2006 when Pier 26 was under renovations. In 2013, those renovations were completed and Downtown Boathouse announced their plan to move back downtown. And so a group of volunteers that had been volunteering at Pier 96 kind of raised our hands and said, we'd love to keep free kayaking happening there. And in part, with the support of the CB4, we submitted a proposal with a letter of support from CB4, and we were granted a permit to operate there at Pier 96. And then back in 2 years ago in 2022, our permit has expired and we presented a new proposal to the park, again with a letter of support from CB4, and we were chosen as one of the permittees at Pier 96. So since then, 2023 was a year of a lot of challenges. We were awarded our permit to continue operating at Pier 96, but there was also a second organization that was granted a permit as well. So for the first time in our history, we had to split up the space, share a calendar, revise our program hours, and kind of coordinate with another organization, both in programming and kind of how we're our administrative responsibilities and duties with the park. So that we were sort of really not starting from square one, but had a lot of kind of administrative work and even just like physical re-outfitting the space because of our new circumstances. And then on top of that, kind of the bigger impact piece, we had record-setting rain and poor weather for our season, and we were closed for about 7 weekends at the end of the season. So our season was cut short, but we managed to still provide on-water recreational programming for nearly 9,000 paddlers in that season. And then this year, it's been just a fantastic season. We've expanded our programming to include some of those river trips for the public, those same kind of the experience that we were typically reserving for the volunteers. We're able to provide that to the public as well. Our program was included on a news story on Spectrum News about safe boating and staying safe on the river. We were also featured in an episode of a German travel show, which was exciting. We received grants for repairing our floating docks and to purchase new life vests. Nearly doubled the number of river trips for our volunteers out on the water. We're up around 30 trips so far this season. And we've managed to hit our milestone with 10,000 paddlers this season. Looking ahead, we're looking forward to the completion of Pier 97. The construction there is just about done. And even already we've noticed an uptick in foot traffic to that part of the neighborhood. And I think we can attribute kind of our increase in numbers, at least partially, to that having that extra attraction in the north end of the park. The Sunset Studios just south of us are scheduled to be completed, I believe, next summer. And so we expect more foot traffic to come once that's completed. We've had a nearly record-setting number of people that kayak with us raise their hand and express interest in volunteering with us. So our team is steadily growing. We've had a lot of great new recruits this season. So the kind of the future of our program, the growth of our program is really healthy and we're steadily growing. We've brought on a new member of our board of directors to help in outreach and development. And we've seen a lot of growth and popularity due to like Instagram and social media posts. And so he's going to kind of really hone in on that and try to kind of stoke that growth. And we're also in the process of submitting grants for upgrading our equipment and our kayaks to ensure that all the equipment we have is kind of safe, up to date, and ready to take on this kind of expanded growth that we're experiencing. That's about it. Just one more small piece is that this Saturday and Sunday is our final weekend of the season. So if you're in the neighborhood, if you're around, if you're looking for something fun to do this weekend, come out. We're at Pier 96 from 1 o'clock until 5:30. This weekend's your last chance to kayak with us.
Thank you for that presentation. I have at least one question, but I don't know if anybody else does. So go for it, Brad.
What's the health of the water? You test it, and where is it at now?
So we don't handle the testing. There are other organizations like Riverkeeper is really the biggest one, the highest profile one. They do weekly testing. They test for bacteria levels. And so in general, it's the trend is after a heavy rainfall, when the kind kind of the sewer system, the combined sewage overflow system in the city gets overwhelmed by added rainfall. A lot of that combined sewage gets dumped out into the river, and bacteria levels skyrocket. And so on those, those weeks, we try to avoid getting in the water. We don't do rescue classes. We don't, we avoid this. It's the water is not really safe to swim in. It's safe to kayak on top of, but it's not a day you want to, practice your kayak rolling or do your rescues classes where people are actually going to be immersed in the water. But in general, it's cleaner than ever. The bacteria levels are lower than ever as a whole. And so it's in general, we are really optimistic about the health of the river, at least from that bacteria standpoint, that we have the data and the access to measure.
If Hudson River Park also tests the water?
I'm not sure about that, honestly. I know they do. They measure. I believe they do measure rainfall and sort of like extrapolate from that. And then they also measure other things like
Actual bacteria testing is more important than the extrapolation. Yeah, that when it rains, there's a lot of material in the water.
Right.
Hi, Mike. So you mentioned that CB4 wrote a letter a few years ago regarding, I think, the RFP and the renewal of your lease there. I'm just curious, like, in terms of your existing lease, do you anticipate, I don't know, the board's help again in any future renewals? And what's the current terms of your lease in terms of how long are you there for?
So we have because it was a new agreement with ourselves and the other organization, we were given, I believe it was we were doing sort of like a year by year lease or year by year permit on kind of to give all of the organizations sort of like an easy out if things weren't working out. Nobody's looking for a long-term commitment. We wanted to be sure it worked. And super happy to report it's been working. The park's been happy. We've been happy. The other organization we're sharing the space with has been happy. So right now we figure we expect that it'll be another 7 years until we have to renew our permit and be coming back for a letter of support.
Great. Thank you.
How far south do your paddlers go?
So the public paddlers just within our program, it's just within the boundaries of our cove. So it's from Pier 94 up to Pier 97, and then not further than the sort of the pier line. That way they're kind of within a protected cove. There's no boat traffic. And the currents are relatively easy to manage. When we do volunteer trips, we'll take those. So these are the volunteers that have staffed our program. They're people we know, people we've trained. We'll take them as far south as Hoboken, or even a little bit further south down to not quite the Statue of Liberty, but sort of the canal there. But that's with people that are experienced, trained, and kind of a known quantity. People we've worked with and are up for that challenge.
I asked that question because I'm concerned about your safety with regard to the Gateway Tunnel project, which is going to be obscuring part of the river.
Yes. So we've intentionally sort of avoided going south this year because of that. We were potentially going to go actually Monday, take a trip south to Hoboken, but because of the extra complications of navigating around that, we've just been avoiding it, taking it easy, and going north where there's kind of less congestion, fewer variables, and it's a little bit more easier to plan and easier to execute.
Well, this is a 3-year. This part of their project is a 3-year project. It's going on for 3 years.
Yes.
So, okay, be safe.
Yes. Thank you.
I have 2 hands.
Ella. Yeah. It's really nice to hear just how you're growing in the number of volunteers. That was a really nice data point to add. I think I wanted to ask, because I remember at one of our meetings, we had the team that's doing the renovations along Hudson River Park, just in terms of above 34th Street, in terms of the bikeway, the bike path.
That's the Gateway project.
Oh, that's the whole Gateway project?
Were you talking about Sunset, the studio?
No,
That's further north.
I guess promenade between
Yes.
34th and then like, I guess where the
50.
cruise terminal is.
Yeah,
Oh, you're going from 34th north?
yeah.
No, there's Hudson River Park is engaging, or I think they put out an RFP, it was answered, And we received a presentation from, I believe, an engineering firm and architects, landscape architects. Yes.
Yes, but anyways, I don't know if that has any impact to sort of your front space, and if you're aware of that. So I think it does go all the way up to the 50s, no?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I think it was just like the 36 from the.
To like 43rd or something, yeah. Okay, looks like my question's been answered, thanks, Mike.
Absolutely.
That was a good answer, Mike.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brett.
Mike, couple of questions. Obviously, I loved watching it, the Olympics. Do you guys put on like a kids race program or go around the buoys? And what is your outreach to some of our affordable housing that's in the neighborhood? I'm just curious. And also to bring in money, do you guys do corporate events like during the day? Can Google rent it out? You guys give them lessons and then you guys get some money out of it, or?
So kind of working backwards. First off, everything we do is free and open to the public. We don't do any corporate events. We don't do anything that anybody has to pay for. It's just not our kind of philosophy, and we've been fortunate enough to not be in a position where we have to do that to raise funds. So no corporate events, no private events. Just everything's free and open to the public. We have done some youth programming in the past at the Gertrude Ederle Rec Center. It's a Parks Department indoor pool, kind of around the corner from the boathouse, and we've done that in the winter times in our off season to encourage some youth programming in a controlled space, in a controlled environment. Any children, anybody under 18 that wants to paddle with us has to be accompanied by a parent or guardian, and anybody under 16 has to share a two-person boat with an adult. So we have everybody from infants up to senior citizens that come and paddle with us, but we don't put any kids on the water by themselves, just for safety. I love the idea of doing, kind of sort of like contests or coming up with some kind of events, but in the past we haven't done that, just because we've been focusing on just free public access, getting as many people on the water as possible, with sort of the least amount of restrictions, just trying to serve, get as many people out there as possible, with kind of the staff that we have.
It's like a promotion type of day where you get on Spectrum One and you say, event here, a bit of a fundraise with the care, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm going to take notes of it and bring it back to my board. It's definitely a great idea. And it's an event more kind of above and beyond. I like it.
Anything else? Everybody in the room, and you too might probably know that Pier 97 has a ribbon cutting on the 15th, which is next Tuesday. Everybody here has been invited. You've received invitations, I think. Is anybody going? And you've RSVP'd? I think I'll be there too.
Well, I'm on Hudson River Advisory, so.
So you don't need to RSVP.
No, I did, but I did do that. I didn't do it through our committee, I did it through Hudson River Advisory.
If you don't come hiking with us this weekend, I will see you there at the ribbon cutting for sure.
You'll be there too.
Yes.
Nice to see you in person. Anything else? Thank you for the update. Appreciate it a whole lot. See you at the ribbon cutting.
Absolutely. Thank you.
The long pause is because there's nothing else on the agenda.
Well,
Brad, go.
Janine, I sent you an article regards to drone taxis. I don't know if you could pull it up. I've also sent it to the chair as well.
I didn't see
Leslie,
it.
the second Leslie, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Give us a background.
Well, I've been talking about it for years, right? I feel like, I know it's transportation, but we are on the water. That, we're designing things like we have horses. We're trying to make stables when the car's coming. Well, right now, this is where we are now. We are not in car world, we are in drone world. We are in taxi world that we are not planning for. And we have this huge waterfront and this island that needs to be utilized. We are getting destroyed by the rest of the country, the rest of the world. We're behind. And here's a simple example that they brought it to New York. This is actually the water taxi, the electric water taxis. That I think we should reach back out to them, this is a separate article, sorry. I'll pivot to this one. So these are the electric water taxis being used all over the world. We were presented 3 years ago, remember Martin, with their new diesel engines? And we asked about the pollution, and why are you spending the money, why isn't it electric, state of the art crap? Well, here you go, they're using them all over, they're faster, and they have no emissions. And I just think we need to bring them back in here and say, what are we doing?
I was watching the Uber boats in the Thames last week that are all electric.
Yes, and these also, they are so much faster, they have a hydroplane, it's smoother ride, you cut down on time. So I just feel we need to address that as an issue going forward with them.
And how do we do that?
Well, they came and presented to us, we asked.
These guys did.
What is
The taxi, the water taxi.
Yes, and they went on and on about the new motors, remember, Marty, we were grilling. And we thought it was a waste of money. So I think we need to bring them back and say, do you have a pilot program? Are you gonna bring one electrical? What are we doing? We're environmental and we're waterfront. These two things are definitely, look, there it is. They're definitely combined.
Is that EDC?
I think that's Leslie.
Who runs the ferry system? So there's a separate New York City or water taxi, which is, I believe, a private
That's a private company,
But then
who's the regulatory agency?
at least our New York City ferries are EDC run. I believe to the extent that there's a regulatory body for like maritime traffic, I imagine that's some sort of coordination from the city, state, and federal government because of the Coast Guard, for example. So I don't know regulatorily how this works in the United States.
I asked that question because, Janine, I think that should be one of the items that's on one of our future.
Yeah, Jesse booked them because I remember Jeffrey was very concerned and we wanted to know where you're putting the new ferry pickups. There should be some other options. We talked about, I don't want to call it the Google beer, but we were saying there's a lot more in our neighborhood where they should be, right? So that's how they came in, and then we asked them about the environmental, and they came back with the boats. So I know Jesse, I'm sure, has the contact, and we should ask them, what are you guys doing? What are you doing?
I'll follow up on that with Jane. One of the things that I was hoping that we'd have tonight was a conversation about sewage and stormwater separation. And the person that Janine has been really chasing didn't respond this week. He was supposed to come tonight, so that didn't happen.
And then I had another one that I sent to Janine, I don't know if you can pull it up, but it was the actual drone taxis that they did an event here in New York City.
Tell me what a drone taxi is. When I see a drone, I think of this thing that's flying.
Yeah, it's
That Grand Central,
It's
yeah.
at Grand Central, literally in Grand Central, I know I've been talking about for 10 years. We're behind. We are behind. We're getting rid of a heliport, meanwhile, this is the new, it's quiet, it doesn't have any carbon, it's electric. The flight out to JFK and to everywhere is like 12 minutes, it's astounding. And let alone all of drone deliveries that we are totally missing. We are waterfront. We're an island and it needs to be utilized. And I don't know, and then it's embarrassing to me. There's a Grand Central and our entire city has no plans, zero. We're planning for horses. It's ridiculous. So I don't know how we do it, Chair. I don't know who we bring in here. I don't know, but we have to address it.
I'll ask a question or two.
Right, and I would love for
If
those people that were
any
here
suggestions that
to
would
say
be.
to us that we're at Grand Central, hey, what size pier do you need? Do you need a barge? Like, what do you need? Maybe we can help you. And my third thing is, if I have to drive on the West Side Highway one more time and watch these poor visitors get shoved out onto the West Side Highway off of these cruise ships, it's a joke. They are scrambling for their lives. They literally are. Over 6 lanes, trying to get across. There's no signs, there's no programming. Meanwhile, they have the whole inside track that we've been asking for, to at least get back to us. But why don't they stage the people in there and have all the pickups in there? It's a joke and it's unsafe.
My guess is that's transportation.
We brought it up so many times to them.
Okay,
That's it for me.
I'll say it was
I
mentioned.
had more, but I'm gonna stop.
I hate to pour salt in the wound.
I can't hear you.
But as long as we're talking, it's like an across the board problem. We still don't have, but we've also sanitation. We still don't have trucks that can lift up the bins to dump them, right? We're gonna first be testing them in Holland. It'll be 20 years before we have a fleet of trucks that can lift bins and put them in, but and they're all over the world.
But it's because it's like we were the last people in the country that were paying tolls to people. It's a union labor job. But the fact is that at least, can we talk about a pilot program? You know, at least to show some success. Work out some problems. Now, our board was heavily involved with the bike lanes. And pilot program on Ninth Avenue, actually right where I live, it was great. So all we asked, and that was a Bloomer thing, pilot program. And that's how I want to determine, we don't need to solve the whole problem, can we try something? Can we try?
So I have, that you all have mentioned three important things is the drone taxi, the water taxi, electric, and the safety of the cruise ship terminal pedestrians. That's definitely a transportation issue, but that we mentioned it should go to them.
But we also asked, where is that money that we got to be coming off? They're getting taxed now. And overflowing the West Side Highway, but we're collecting their money. We've asked repeatedly, where is the money
From them.
that they've been collecting? Where is the money? It's supposed to be designated. We've asked and asked, we've had no answers. None.
Okay, thanks.
So it's like, what is, we're just getting ignored.
Alice, I saw your hand.
It's fine.
He did it. I mean, I want to keep the meeting going as long as possible. It's not even an hour yet, and you did so long last month. But unless there's nothing else to say, I'm saying.
I can only eat more donuts. Don't put me around donuts. I've already had two, I can eat more.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn. Yes, I think we're-
Say it again.
I hope that we adjourn the meeting.
Oh, you moved to, are you gonna do it?
Well, I mean, if we have to.
Right, we have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
end the meeting.
But Ken seconded
I
it.
second.
I think everyone voted, yeah,
Yeah.
like stood up in sort of affirmation. It seems that we adjourned this meeting successfully.
Marty, you know that.
You didn't like the informal way I did it.
I liked it. I just was afraid that we weren't supposed to do it that way.
I seriously.
Marty, you know the pier that they said is right now that they can't fix, and we know the big hall that's just sitting there, right next to where they're building the studio.
Oh, Pier 92.
Perfect spot. The taxis and the drones. What are we talking about?
That's an expensive pier to fix.
They got the loans to fix theirs, apparently they have grants. Mike should get over there.
That's a transportation.
Yeah. 2094 is there, yeah.
The donuts come with me, so someone can take it.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. You made
everyone. Have a
my
good
sharing
night.
of this meeting really easy.
Yeah.
Next month.